Welcome, and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording and slides will be posted publicly on our website. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to your host for today, Vicki Mack.
Thank you, Kira. Hello, welcome to today's presentation, Introduction to the American Community Survey, or ACS. My name is Vicki Mack, and I work for the American Community Survey Office at the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm here with my coworker, Caleb Poplar, who also works for the American Community Survey Office. We are excited to share information about the American Community Survey, or ACS, and the data it provides. If you have questions, you're welcome to submit them using the Slido Q&A feature here in WebEx, and my colleagues will try to answer them during the webinar. The PDF version of the slides is available at the link shown here on the screen. Also, today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available online after the webinar. Before we talk about the ACS, let's start with a quick overview of the U.S. Census Bureau as a whole. The Census Bureau is the largest primary federal government statistical agency, and it is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. Our mission is to serve as the nation's leading provider of quality data about its people and economy. We strive to provide the most up-to-date, useful quality data and products. Many people are familiar with the once every 10-year census, also known as the decennial census, but we also conduct more than 130 censuses and surveys of households and businesses across the nation each year. This includes the American Community Survey and more than 30 other household surveys. There are also over 60 economic programs, with the economic census being the largest and most comprehensive. There's also information on our nation's public sector provided by the Census of Governments. Now let's go over today's agenda. For the first part of today's webinar, I will be going over the basics of the ACS, including the history of the survey, how the data are collected, the topics included, and the geographies covered. Next, I will explain the types of tables or data products available from the ACS. After that, I will discuss some of the tools available to help you access ACS data. Then Caleb will demonstrate how to find ACS data using a few of these tools. Finally, I'll cover some resources available on our website for learning more about the survey. The ACS is the premier source of detailed information about the nation's people and housing. The survey samples about 3.5 million addresses each year and 150,000 group quarters residents. These data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates for communities throughout the 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. The estimates cover more than 40 topics. The ACS collects this detailed information each year that was previously collected by the decennial census each decade. Information from the ACS generates data that help inform how trillions of dollars in federal funds are distributed each year, supporting more than 300 known federal uses and countless non-federal uses. ACS data are timely because they are released the year immediately following the year in which they are collected. ACS creates period estimates, which means they represent the characteristics of the population and housing over a specific data collection period. The ACS releases estimates for 1 year and 5-year periods. After years of extensive testing, the ACS was fully implemented in 2005. The first ACS one-year estimates were collected in 2005 and released in 2006. The first 5-year ACS estimates were collected between 2005 and 2009 and released in 2010. Now let's talk about who uses the ACS and why. As I just mentioned, information from the ACS generates data that help inform how trillions of dollars in federal funds are distributed each year. There are also many other users of ACS data, such as local planners and policymakers, businesses, nonprofits, researchers, and more. Most people probably never think about how local planners use ACS data to know where to target new development or services, or where businesses get the data they need to plan for expansion. For example, the city of Arlington, Texas uses ACS data for housing grant applications to tailor community outreach strategies and to attract new businesses. To better understand the ACS and why it exists, it is helpful to look at census history. The first U.S. Census was conducted in 1790 and occurred every 10 years. The same questions were asked of households from 1790 through 1930. From 1940 to 2000, all households were asked short-form questions, and a sample of households were asked long-form questions. The short form included only basic questions, while the long form asked much more detailed questions. This long form approach worked well initially, but the data became outdated as the decade progressed. In the early 1990s, demand from a wide variety of users for current, nationally consistent data led federal government policymakers to consider the feasibility of collecting social, economic, and housing data continuously throughout the decade. This approach was eventually called the American Community Survey, or ACS for short. There's also the Puerto Rico Community Survey, or PRCS. It is part of the ACS customized for Puerto Rico. In 2000, a large-scale demonstration of the ACS was conducted. The ACS and PRCS were then fully implemented in 2005 and began collecting data for all of America's communities each year. In 2010 and moving forward, the decennial census is only a short form sent to all households because the ACS now collects information each year that was once collected by the long form each decade. So this slide illustrates the progression of the census from its initial one form method to the short and long form period, and to the modern day with the short form conducted every decade and the ACS conducted every year. The ACS is part of the decennial census program. Therefore, it's important to point out how the ACS differs from the census itself. The ACS estimates are based on a sample of the population, whereas the census is based on the official count of the population. The information obtained from the sample of 3.5 million housing units is then used to estimate characteristics about the total population in a timely and cost-effective manner. However, these estimates differ from those obtained in a census where every household in the nation is contacted. This results in an element of uncertainty in the ACS data. As such, ACS estimates include margins of error, or MOEs. The MOEs give us more information about the population, telling us how much the estimate may vary from the true population value. But don't worry, we'll talk more about the MOEs later. The ACS collects information that previously appeared on the census long form, collecting detailed social, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics, whereas the census collects basic demographics via the short form: age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, household relationship, and housing tenure. The ACS produces population and housing characteristics, whereas the census produces population and housing totals and select characteristics. The ACS occurs annually, combining data for 12 months or 60 months, whereas the census occurs every 10 years and reflects a point in time, which is Census Day or April 1st. So how do households participate in the ACS? First, addresses are randomly selected to participate. ACS data are collected on a continual basis throughout the year. Households that receive the survey can respond online, by mail with a paper questionnaire, or by computer-assisted interviewing with a field representative. Typically, for most housing units, the first phase of data collection includes an invitation for the household to respond, which is mailed to the sample address. If the household does not respond online, a paper questionnaire is sent for the household to complete and return by mail. This self-response phase lasts roughly 8 weeks. The Census Bureau will select a subsample of addresses or select unmailable addresses for non-response follow-up. This phase lasts about 4 weeks. If the census receives an online response or a completed paper questionnaire from the sample address at any point of the process, the address will be removed from the data collection workload. Each address has about a 1 in 480 chance of being selected in a month, and no address should be selected more than once every 5 years. Each completed survey is important because it is a building block used to create statistics about communities. The content collected by the ACS can be grouped into 4 main types of characteristics: social, economic, demographic, and housing. Social characteristics include topics like educational attainment, language spoken at home, and veteran status. Economic characteristics include such topics as commuting to work, employment status, and income. The ACS also collects basic demographic characteristics such as sex, age, race, and Hispanic origin. And finally, in orange on the right here, housing characteristics will include topics like computer and internet use, housing costs, as well as new topics added in 2025: electric vehicles, solar panels, and public sewer connectivity. Data for these new topics are planned to be released later this year. These topics are used to produce more than 1,000 tables each year. Along with the numerous topics covered, the ACS also provides data for more geographies on an annual basis than any other household survey. The image on the slide shows some of the geographies for which ACS data are produced and the relationship between them. Lower geographic areas fit neatly within the larger areas directly connected with lines. For example, school, congressional, and state legislative districts fit neatly within states and do not cross state boundaries. However, they may cross boundaries of counties or metropolitan areas. In this visualization, you can also see the smallest geographic building block is the block group that include between 600 and 3,000 people each. This unique ability to report on a wide range of geographies is what gives ACS such a broad appeal. Covering a wide range of geographic areas, ACS data are most commonly needed at the state, county, census tract, and block group geographic levels. This slide illustrates the relationship between these common geographic types and how they are nested within one another, as this example shows in El Paso, Texas. Census tracts are small statistical subdivisions within a county with populations of 1,200 to 8,000 people. Block groups are a group of blocks within a census tract with, again, about 600 to 3,000 people, as you can see blown out in the right corner of the screen. Again, the ACS has the ability to report on a wide range of geographies, as well as provide data at very granular levels like census tracts and block groups. The ACS provides three main data products: the 1 year supplemental, and 5-year estimates. These products are released about 1 year after the data are collected. ACS data are generally released in September, the calendar year after collection, as 1-year estimates, in October, the calendar year after collection, as 1-year supplemental estimates, and 5-year estimates are generally released in December, the calendar year after collection. For example, the 1-year ACS data collected from January 1st through December 31st of 2024 were released on September 11th, 2025. ACS 1-year estimates, which combine data collected over 12 months, are available for geographic areas with a population of 65,000 or more. ACS 1-year supplemental estimates are a subset of detailed tables that are available for geographic areas with populations of 20,000 or more. 1-year supplemental estimates are simplified versions of popular ACS tables and provide the most current data to almost twice as many geographies compared to the 1-year release. ACS 5-year estimates combine data collected over 60 months and are available for geographic areas of all sizes down to those granular census tracts and block group levels. The full detailed data release schedule for each year is available at the link you see on the slide. Here's a county map that shows you which releases are available for different parts of the country. In this map, the counties shaded dark blue receive 1-year supplemental, and 5-year estimates. These are counties with a population of 65,000 or more. The lighter blue counties receive 1-year supplemental and 5-year estimates. These are counties with a population of 20,000 or more, while the yellow counties only receive 5-year estimates. These are counties with a population below 20,000. In the Northeast, there are lots of counties that meet the 65,000 population threshold, which means you can get the latest 1-year data each year. On the West Coast, most of the counties get 1-year data as well. But in parts of the Midwest, especially in the Dakotas, stretching down to North Texas, those yellow shaded areas, those areas have much greater reliance on the 5-year data. All right, now that we've covered some background information about the ACS, let's jump into the data products or types of tables that the ACS provides. We offer many different types of data products to meet the needs of our data users. Pre-tabulated profiles and tables are products that are already created for you. The data profiles are good places to start for novice data users, and they contain the most frequently requested social, economic, housing, and demographic data in a separate profile. The data profiles summarize data for a single geographic area, providing both estimates and percentages to cover the most basic data on all ACS topics. Tables provide a precise or detailed view of a subject. They are the best source for the most comprehensive ACS tables. If you're not able to find an existing table to meet your needs, we also offer public use microdata sample or PUMS files that allow you to create custom tables. PUMS files contain a sample of individual records of people and households that responded to the survey, stripped of all identifying information. And they are best for data users with expertise in using statistical packages. Now that you understand more about the types of data products we offer, let's talk about how we identify the ACS products. While the characteristics or characters of the table ID may look random at first, each table ID is purposefully numbered to describe its content and format. For example, B06004 APR shows that the table contains place of birth statistics for the white alone population in Puerto Rico. The table IDs consist of up to 5 elements. Element 1 identifies the table type. In this example, the type of table is a base table, which is a type of detailed table. Therefore, the letter B is used. Element 2 identifies the subject. In this case, the subject of the table is place of birth, identified by 06. Element 3 is the sequential number, a set of 2 or 3 digits that uniquely identifies the table within a given subject, in this case, 004. Element 4 is the race iteration for the table. Each table is repeated for the 9 major race and Hispanic or Latino groups. The A stands for white alone. Element 5 is for tables where the content of the table for Puerto Rico differs from the US table. A comparable US table will have the same 4 elements, but without the 5th element, PR. Another feature you'll see in our data products is the inclusion of a margin of error, or MOE, next to each of the ACS estimates. As mentioned earlier, the ACS is based on a sample of the population, and as a result, ACS estimates have a degree of uncertainty associated with them. That's called sampling error. In general, the larger the sample, the smaller the level of sampling error. To help users understand the impact of sampling error on data reliability, we provide a margin of error for each ACS estimate. Put simply, an MOE is a measure of the possible variation of the estimate around the population value. The Census Bureau uses a 90% confidence level as its standard. So all ACS estimates published on data.census.gov have margins of error calculated at the 90% confidence level. It's also important to note that the MOEs provided by the Census Bureau are always in the same units as their respective estimates. For instance, a percent estimate will have a percent MOE, and a median income estimate will have an MOE in dollars. Here we have a typical table, subject table S0101, age and sex, as it is displayed on data.census.gov for the state of Maryland using the 2024 ACS one-year estimates. I have the row I'm going to work with highlighted, but let's go over the basics first. As you can see, the table has 3 elements: the characteristics or the descriptions, the estimates, and the accompanying margins of error. In this example, we want to know the number of males under the age of 5 who live in Maryland. We find the lower bound of the MOE by subtracting the MOE from the estimate, and we find the upper bound by adding the estimate and margin of error. We are 90% confident that the true number of males under the age of 5 in Maryland falls between the lower bound of 174,797 and the upper bound of 179,297. Now that we are familiar with ACS data products, I want to briefly go over data tools which provide and use ACS data, and then Caleb will finish this section with a few demonstrations of data tools. In this collection of some of the data tools available that you can use to access data, I'm going to briefly explain what they are, but you can find these tools, resources on how to use them, and more on the census.gov website. The first tool, data.census.gov, is the Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform, and is the primary way to access data from the American Community Survey. Data.census.gov allows users to filter searches through topics or geographies, download data files, and create customized maps and charts. It includes ACS data from 2010 to present. My congressional district gives you a quick and easy access to selected statistics from the American Community Survey and County Business Patterns, which is an annual series that provides subnational economic data by industry. Quick Facts is a quick, easy way to access facts about people, business, and geography. Quick Facts provides statistics for all states, counties, cities, and towns with a population of 5,000 or more. It's great for making quick comparisons between two geographies. On the Map for Emergency Management tool, that tool is a good source to assist in evaluating the impact of a potentially affected area or learn from the history of a disaster. My Tribal Area is a tool that allows you to access statistics representing the entire population that lives on American Indian and Alaska Native areas. My Community Explorer is an interactive tool highlighting demographic and socioeconomic data, helping data users identify underserved communities to support data-based solutions. Census Business Builder is a tool created for users who need information on potential customers, comparable businesses, and consumer spending in order to start or expand a business or gain a clearer understanding of the economic landscape in a particular area. Finally, the Application Programming Interface, or API, allows developers to utilize publicly available detailed ACS data for the development of web or mobile apps. The API contains multiple data sets as well as data sets from other censuses and programs. This is also where you can find ACS data prior to 2010. Now I'll hand the webinar over to Caleb Hopler, who will demonstrate a few of these ACS data tools. Caleb will demonstrate how to access data from data.census.gov, ACS narrative profiles, and My Tribal Area. It's all yours, Caleb.
All right. Thank you very much, Vicki. I appreciate that. I'm switching over to share my screen here. And loading. Here we go. Great. Okay, so what we're going to go through is a couple of live demos on 3 of the different tools that we have to access ACS data. 2 of them Vicki has talked about, and one of them, the narrative profiles, is an extra tool I'd like to showcase. So first of all, we're here in as Vicky described, data.census.gov is the Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform. Here you're going to get the data, plain and simple, in tables. You can get them in maps, charts, profiles, and microdata. And essentially, I just read right off the top here. So when you go to data.census.gov, you can choose the type of data that you're going to be accessing in the different view for that. So if you have a particular data variable or series of variables that you need to pull for a geographic area, there are a couple different ways that you can go about actually getting to that type of table. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore my filters, because essentially I'm going to do an advanced search. Instead of searching here or search by address, let's say I know that I want to look at the median housing value, and I want to be comparing this against all counties within the state of Texas. All right, so I have a variable and then I have my geographies, and there's a bunch of geographies. So instead of just searching, let me explore filters, and then I can start defining everything that I want. So the first set of filters I have over here are geographies. So I said I want all counties for the state of Texas. So I'll click county. I need to define the state of within of where the county is going to be in. So I said Texas. So I could either type it in here or I can just simply scroll. And then once when I get to Texas, click that, and I'll have the list of counties. I want all of them. So I'm going to click this top button, all counties within Texas. And then it is going to load my other variables now that it has the filter. And one good trick is to every time you click something, yes, you see the checkbox here, but also look over here where the filters are and make sure that what you just selected is actually coming up here. That way you know that it is pulling exactly what you're looking for. And so for the topics, this next section, we are wanting median housing value. So that's of course going to be under housing. And when I click to expand, I see financial characteristics. Click that, and then I'll see housing value and purchase price. So this is what I would be looking for. And instead of going through other variables and defining other pieces of the puzzle, I feel like this is all that I need, all counties within Texas, housing value. So I'm going to click search. And I have different options. I have tables, and I can go to maps, etc. But right now I'm just looking for the table, and I see value, but I said I want median value. And so that's right here, table B25077. So I'll click that. And as you can see, it pops up over here. I still have this in my view. I can click these carets to minimize those and expand the table. And then I have my view. If I mouse down to over here, I see this little scroll bar, and it's very small because I have a ton of counties selected. So I can click that scroll bar and then just go to the right and check everything out. Now, another way to view this that might be a little helpful, especially if you don't want to be trying to compare all of these estimates and then scroll to the right, scroll to the right, scroll to the right. What I can do is I can transpose. And so essentially that's going to flip-flop. So instead of having the geographies in the columns, now I have the geographies as the rows. And this might be a better way to just go back and forth. And of course, you can also download this data by clicking this button here and downloading it into an Excel file. That way you can actually change up the table a little bit more in any way that you want to manipulate and make it look for the purpose of your presentation. Now, another thing to note is whenever you do come to these tables, make sure you are also defining the year that you're wanting. So first of all, this defaulted to 2023, but I want the most recent data. And as of the time of this webinar today, the most recent data is the 2024. So I see two different 2024s. Vicky did a great job explaining the difference between 1 year and 5 years. So I'm going to click 5 year because I said I want all counties. If I click 1 year, I run the risk of some counties not showing up in this list because maybe for that particular year selected the population threshold of 65,000 or more was not met for that 1 year data set. And so that's why pretty much I always want to click 5 year to get all counties. So I'm making sure I get all of those. But then I see here all of the different median household values. So I can see that for Andrews County and just keep going. Now, if I want to see this in a different format, not a table, but a map, simply click the map icon above the table. I have it right over here, and I'm going to click map. And I have all the different counties highlighted here in Texas. So by simply clicking on a county, I can see in Coleman County, Texas, that median value is $92,500. I can click to view the profile of that county, which will give me a lot more information about the county itself. And this is just a great way to quickly visualize, especially to compare between different counties. You see the lighter sections and then you see the darker sections. And based off of the color coding here, you can see what those color codes mean, essentially. So the lighter gray is showing a lower household, median value. And then once you get through to the darkest blue here, I see the higher amount there. So, okay, let's switch gears and go into another data tool. Let's talk about narrative profiles. Now, this is from our website. So it's accessible by going to census.gov/ACS. And when you click data and data tables, you will find narrative profiles. And actually, you can just follow along right up here with this string here. That's kind of the general rule of thumb to get you any of our places on our webpage. And what I love about narrative profiles is that this is the only way to access ACS data in a short analytic report format. So essentially, it's going to give me 18 different topic areas. It provides text. It also gives me visualization in bar charts, and I can also select to open up the data tables themselves and even links to data tables in data.census.gov all in one place. This is a great tool if you're trying to bring this to a meeting or attach it to an application or what have you. So everything is tailored to the geography that you choose. So assuming I want the latest year available, which right now is 2024, which is this uses 5 year data set. So it's the 2020 to 2024 ACS 5 year narrative profile. For my geography, I can either choose to use the address lookup. And when I click this, I can put in the address of my area. And maybe I don't know the geography level associated with that particular address. So let's say I'm looking at my at the census headquarters and I'm like, okay, well, I need the data for that block group. I don't know off the top of my head what the block group name is. I know what county it's in. That's logical, but I don't know off the top of my head what the block group is. So anyway, if you put in the address and do look up address, it'll give you all of the different associated geographies that that address is nested inside of. But for this example, I'm just going to, since I previously talked about Texas, let's talk about Dallas, Texas as a place and just to get a narrative profile. So I'm going to click place and then select the state to begin. So I'm going to go down to Texas and then I can choose my place. Now I'm going to scroll all the way down until I get to Dallas City, Texas, right here. And I have the option to get the narrative profile. And so the narrative profile is very handy. Sometimes it can take about 30 seconds to load. This is actually loading kind of quickly, but I have it preloaded here just in case. So for the interest of time, I just moved that to my other tab. And this is the narrative profile for Dallas City, Texas. I see the text format about households and families. I also see I can close, I can open the table format. I have the bar charts here, marital status, grandparents and children. And then within this section, the data source for those three variables, those topics are in DP02 in, and let me click to open in a new tab in data.census.gov that we already took a look at. So narrative profile, great way to understand the data instead of just looking at this, all of these data points and the variables and the margins of error, trying to wrap your head around it. This will basically make it make sense for you. If I was interested in commuting, then I can just go down here until I find the commuting section. And if you need to just copy and paste into your report, or if you want to take a copy of this whole thing, you can simply right click and hit print. And you can print it physically, of course, but also save as a PDF if you're trying to send it via email or attach it electronically to a report. And lastly, let me talk about my tribal area. Vicky talked about my tribal area as a great tool that brings together data from data.census.gov, but it puts it in a visual format, also easy to access, a plethora of information for a specific tribal area. So I can either choose, and I can type in or scroll down and choose the tribal area that I'm looking for. I can also go by state. So for instance, I can click, let's just say North Carolina, and I can select a tribal area. So I have a bunch to choose from. I can choose Eastern Cherokee Reservation. I see them highlighted on the map, and then I have my different variable types over here. So I could choose economy, for instance, to look at the income and benefits for this tribal area. I can also see the median household income. I can look at housing, load that there, and check out the housing tenure and the value, the median housing value, which we just looked at over in data.census.gov before a different geographic area. So this is a great tool to quickly grab all this information. You can download all of this once when you choose your tribal area, then download into a CSV. Or if you want to embed the widget, you can simply go here to embed and bring it over into your onto your website or other platform. So okay, well, that is all the live demos I want to provide today. So Vicky, I'm going to go ahead and send it back over to you.
Thank you, Caleb. Now let's talk about the variety of resources the Census Bureau provides for learning more about ACS data, tools, and about the survey at large. The best starting place for ACS-related resources is the ACS website at census.gov/ACS. This website contains a wealth of information about the survey, data products, tools for data users, and other helpful information. Are you curious about why we ask questions about certain topics on the ACS? Well, every question has a required purpose and many uses to help communities. The Census Bureau has a Why We Ask webpage series where we dive into why the ACS asks each question. You can also browse some of the most popular results from that question and view the question as it appears on the form. We also provide information on the origin of the question, how we protect your privacy, and how ACS statistics help communities. Links to our data tables and tools pages can be found throughout the ACS data page. These web pages will introduce you to the most popular tools and data products with descriptions and links for each. For example, you can find links to the tools we just covered, like data.census.gov, My Congressional District, and others you may have interest in. The tables page will provide definitions of each type of table, as well as links to tools where these products can be found. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the ACS provides millions of estimates, and that is a strength of the ACS, estimating characteristic distribution. The Census Bureau recommends that users compare population characteristics such as percents, means, medians, and rates rather than estimates of the population totals, as they are often more reliable than the corresponding count estimates. But count estimates can be used if necessary. Now, if you're looking for population totals, we recommend using the decennial census or population estimates program. When an estimate from the population estimates program is available, such as the total population or number of males, females in a county, the population estimate program data is the official count and is preferred. In general, the Census Bureau recommends that you do compare estimates from non-overlapping periods. For example, compare a 2015 to 2019 ACS 5-year estimate to 2020 to 2024 ACS 5-year estimate. Do not compare overlapping periods. For example, the 2019 to 2023 ACS 5-year estimates to the 20 to 24 ACS estimates would not be a proper comparison. According to Chapter 4 of our General User's Handbook, overlapping datasets share the same pooled data collected during their overlapping years. Do compare similar period lengths. For example, compare 1 year to 1 year or 5 year to 5 year. Don't compare estimates from different period lengths. For example, don't compare 1 year to 5 year. You can visit the comparison guidance page for broad information about comparing ACS estimates across years and the 2010 and 2020 census. As I mentioned earlier, the ACS collects data from a sample of the population in the United States and Puerto Rico rather than from the whole population. So all ACS data are estimates. To help you interpret the reliability of the estimates, the Census Bureau publishes a margin of error that I described earlier for every ACS estimate. Unless you take into account those MOEs, you can't conclude that estimates are statistically different from one another. Instead, you have to conduct statistical testing when making comparisons between estimates to check for any differences. We'll talk more about this in just a second. Looking at estimates alone to decide if they are higher or lower than one another is not sufficient. Statistical testing is an important part of data analysis, as it can tell us whether or not a difference in estimates is likely to be real or unlikely to have occurred by chance. To be significantly different, there must be statistical evidence that there is a difference between two estimates. Statistical testing should be conducted anytime you make a comparison between two estimates. For example, if you're going to the city council or county council asserting that commute times have increased in recent years, you'll want to conduct statistical testing to confirm that the estimated commute times have actually increased. This slide contains the formula for testing statistical significance. Now, some good news for you is you don't need to worry about relearning advanced algebra because the Census Bureau provides its statistical testing tool for public use for free. This tool allows you to input estimates you'd like to test and receive a visual notification of whether the estimates are statistically different or not. Using the tool, you can compare both pairs of estimates and groups of estimates against each other. The tool is available for downloading as an Excel spreadsheet via the link at the bottom of the slide. If you want to learn more about how to calculate statistical comparisons or how to calculate statistical comparisons using ACS estimates, please check out our recorded webinar we conducted highlighting the best practices when using ACS data. Moving on. Now, for users that have access to data but need more information to understand the tables and complete their analysis, we offer code lists, subject definitions, root quarter definitions, instructions for applying statistical testing, comparison guidance, and accuracy of the data in our technical documentation section. The technical documentation page, as shown on this slide, can be found at the census.gov/ACS website, and then by selecting technical documentation on the left-hand side. I also want to point out our information for web pages. These pages are organized by ACS user type, such as businesses, general users, media, nonprofits, and researchers. These pages provide resources for each type of user and include specific handbooks aimed toward a user type, relevant flyers for the user, and much more. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for finding resources as they pertain to the type of data user you all are. This also means there are quick links to access data through tools like data.census.gov and more we just highlighted. Before I wrap up, I want to invite you to keep in touch with us. One way is by sharing your ACS data story. This allows data enthusiasts across the country to share the creative ways they are using ACS data to make a difference in their community. If you are someone who has used ACS for your community, organization, or business, consider submitting your story today. You can also sign up for and manage email updates from us here at the ACS. Our events and updates email will alert you when new materials are available, and you will stay updated on our data releases. In closing, let me share information on how to find answers and get support after this webinar concludes. You can visit our website at census.gov/ACS. It's just a great resource with information about the survey, data products, and tools for data users, and other helpful information. If you have a question about the ACS, do not hesitate to send us an email at acso.users.support@census.gov or call the number on the screen. Census Academy is our learning hub for data skills. You can learn how to access and use Census Bureau data your way through our how-to data gems or data gem videos, in-depth courses, webinars, and tutorials. This page also has a link where you can request a training at no cost from our data dissemination specialists or DDSs. DDSs are located within your region and can provide you with assistance about Census Bureau data, such as how to obtain or understand ACS data. Whether conducting one-on-one webinars with business startups or conducting large-scale presentations at universities, these specialists strive to put the public in touch with the data they need. If you're on social media, connect with us at US Census Bureau using the hashtag ACS data. One last thing, if you're using ACS estimates, make sure to source the ACS as to where you received the data. It helps people know that the information they are using is powered by the ACS. This concludes today's webinar on the introduction to the ACS. Thank you so much for spending this last hour with us. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.